Okay, all right. How's everybody doing? Again, the enthusiasm is outstanding. All right. It's a good day, right? Everybody good? Yes? Yes. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. A little bit of false enthusiasm. All right, let's go. What we got?
When you get like some of these individual matchups, you can see with the marquee players, sort of like Beckham against Slade, how much you think those guys like going against each other, and is it kind of like just a fun part of the practice?
Sure. I mean, again, for us, it's going to be, it's going to be pretty much the standard thing. So we're just going to go out and try to get some good work, and whatever the matchups are and those situations, it's going to change continually. We have different periods set up in practice where we're obviously trying to evaluate our guys. I'm not really focused on, the other team right now, just trying to make sure our team is in the right position, lined up and ready to go. And hopefully we're showing some improvement from, what we did last week from our fundamental standpoints and our techniques and our ability to just go out and execute at a higher level.
From last week that you want to adjust this week, whether you want to get more out of a session or want to dial something back?
Sure, a little bit of a different kind of format than last week, just a couple other things that we're going to try to put a little bit of emphasis on as we developed here through, another week of training camp. You're adding installation, you're adding different parts of the situational football game that now we can actually practice, which maybe weren't in last week from that standpoint. So be a little bit different team periods in that aspect and some different type of one-on-one type stuff too, which will be good.
Going back to January, how serious were conversations with the Giants and negotiations?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just trying to make sure today's practice is outstanding and that we do a really good job here. So that's kind of going to be the focus for right now.
While you're watching today's practice, will your mind maybe go at all and be like, what could have been?
Totally will be on today's practice. It's a good question, though.
We haven't really talked much about Tracy Walker. Just curious what you've seen from him throughout the game.
Yeah, good question. Obviously Tracy came in the spring. I thought he did a really good job of learning the defense from a real initial standpoint. We kind of had him in the deep part of the field a little bit as a safety position, which is some of the things that we saw on tape coming out of college. Kind of, again, that situation where we're not in pads, there's a physicality to his game that we weren't really sure if we were going to, what that was going to look like until we actually got the equipment on. Been through training camp with him, put him in a couple different spots, maybe as we push all of those rookies, you get to the point where you try to find that ceiling of how much can they actually handle. And I think we, tried to figure that out and then pull back a little bit and just try to improve on some of the core things that we were asking him to do, which he has now improved through training camp. And the good thing was there was a couple shots in the game the other day where I thought his physicality showed up, some of the stuff that we saw on film. So that's a good tie-in for us right there. But certainly, I mean, you're talking about a guy that has a long way to go. This guy's, we got to really develop and keep working with. But I thought those were some positives from last week.
You did grow up in New York. I think if I remember right, you were a 49ers fan. But what was your sort of relationship like with the Giants? What role did they play in your love of football growing up, I guess?
Yeah, I'll give you one little nugget here. You can write this one down. So our family friends, okay, a lady by the name of Mimi Owens, her husband, Steve, was actually a longtime Giants player, coach, really unbelievable man. So when I was a little kid, we actually used to get quite a bit of stuff from the Giants, and that was a big fascination for me because that was probably the closest tie I could have to an NFL franchise at that time when I was little. So always had that connection with them.
What sort of stuff?
Mimi would show us like the Christmas cards or something like that when she would get them sent from the family. So I thought that was pretty cool when I was a little kid.
Were you a Giants fan then, or do I remember your 49ers?
I don't know, I'm a Detroit Lions fan right now, so we'll go there.
What's your relationship like with Pat Shurmur? He said you guys have done this before. And did you guys ever, obviously you were going through interviews at the same time, Did you guys talk to each other at all?
Yeah, he and I have had a great relationship for a while. We did work against each other a while ago and always have really stayed in contact since that. We've had a couple mutual friends and coaches that have worked with each other on both sides of the ball. So we've always had that great respect for each other from that standpoint. And when trying to put together a practice like this, just so easy from a standpoint of saying, hey, what do you want to do? What do you think about some of the stuff that we did before? Does that work now? And it really came together very quick. So which is good. And he was unbelievable as far as trying to handle all the logistics of, coming out here and having the opportunity to practice against us. So we're really excited about it. We'll make sure we have a good couple days here and try to get some good solid work done.
What's your philosophy on doing this in back-to-back weeks? Slightly unusual, I think, to do it in back-to-back weeks. Why?
Sure, really not unusual for me. That's what I've been used to. So we've done this. I think it's always good to have one that's at home and then also have a chance to get away. A little bit tough from again a travel standpoint and trying to get everything set up, but I think it's good. I think it's if you can get it done and you can do it with someone like the teams that we're working with this year, we're kind of on the same track and same mindset of what we're trying to accomplish. I think you can actually get a lot done.
Coach, your front five on offense, the offensive line have been more or less the same for the last few weeks, but the guys behind them, those backups, have been working 2 or 3 positions. Just curious what the challenges are there, especially for the younger guys.
Sure. Well, again, with the offensive line in general, like I kind of mentioned a couple of times, it's one of the hardest groups to get everybody on the same page. You try to keep continuity the best you can when you kind of understand who you think maybe is in that first range or second range. But then there's obviously a lot of competition behind it, and you're trying to move those guys into different spots or different positions to see how they compete in all areas. Because really, when you get to that point of the roster, and you're looking at guys, and really even the guys with the front line you have a better idea with, but they have to be able to play multiple positions. Sometimes you got guys that are, swing tackles, they can play both sides, or guys that maybe are center guards, they can do multiple positions inside. Sometimes they're just kind of a one side. Maybe they're a right tackle, right guard sort of player from that standpoint. So mixing those guys in those different positions in competitive situations is advantageous for us to see how they can handle it, because when it happens in the season, it's just going to happen. It's going to be something that they're thrown into that situation. They got to perform at a high level, so hopefully you can get a little bit of a head start on that beforehand.
Yeah, you divided the reps of the game with leading your backup quarterbacks. What's going to separate out that position, and what about Castle's experience and all that? How does that factor into it?
Sure. Well, I think it's obviously a great competition for us, just like all the way across the board in a lot of the positions that we have. We try to make sure that we're as competitive as possible, so that those on-field reps and kind of competition is at the highest level. I think both of those guys are doing a good job really with the offense. Obviously, Jake's been here, so he understands the offense a little bit. Matt's learning the offense from that standpoint. Matt has a little bit more experience, a little bit more kind of just on-field presence and experience from that standpoint in games. But Jake is obviously developing from that standpoint. So it's really kind of an interesting sort of competition that's going on with those two guys, and really just trying to give them both equal opportunity, not only to go perform and compete, but also do it with different surrounding, players, so that also affects, as a quarterback, the different things that you have to control, whether it's different linemen, different skill players. There's different aspects of that you have to then be able to manage as a quarterback.
You want to both get a shot at running a 2-minute office at the end like you did.
Yeah, we worked a lot of that in practice too. So we've had an opportunity for those guys to do that in practice. We'll continue to try to give those guys both opportunities. But it is, if you get those situations in the game, sometimes it always doesn't work out in the preseason where it's exactly 2 minutes left in either half. So you might have to manufacture it at some point just to try to give them some reps. Yep.
Coach, Kenny Golladay, how would you assess his camp has gone so far? And has he kind of seen that, that second-year bump that a lot of players sometimes can experience?
Sure. I think from just a camp standpoint, and that's probably where we'll keep it, I think he's had a really good camp. I think he's really progressed overall. His general understanding of the offense, he's been able to kind of be in some different positions and then also improve his individual skill set. So his route running, some of his breaks, his ability to play big, which he's obviously a big wide receiver, be a target in some of those critical situations, has all been great so far in camp. The jump from year to year, obviously I think you got to finish a year before you can really evaluate that to see if there's been that sort of growth. But I think on the track that he's on right now, it's all been real positive.
Coach, Saquon Barkley, even somebody you looked at coming out of the draft, or did you not because, he was going to go on?
Sure. Well, you try to look at all of them, obviously, and guys like that are such talented players, you definitely want to look at them because even the quarterback positions, those guys that come out, at some point you might have to face them. So you really want to go back and study all of those guys the best you can. Certainly, you noticed them quite easily when you were looking at other players on tape, so your eye tends to go back to that guy and say, wow, it's pretty talented, special guy.
If he doesn't play, you guys didn't see Khalil Mack last week. I don't know if Saquon's going to be out there this week or not, but I don't know. Does that lessen in some ways what some guys might get from it? How does that sort of impact these joint practices?
No impact. Good. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.